So what exactly are the nature of the charges against Gautam Adani and his other executives? Is there a strong legal case or not being built up in the US? Joining me now, Aryama Sundaram, Senior Advocate, Supreme Court, and Bishwajit Bhattacharya, former ASG. Appreciate both of you joining us. To you, Mr. Sundaram, we are hearing lawyers, including former Attorney General Mukul Rohatgi, coming out virtually in defense of Gautam Adani, saying, look, he's not been charged under the US Foreign Corrupt Practices Act or FCPA, that the conspiracy to commit securities fraud is the charge, which is a lesser charge. It is not a FCPA corruption charge. How do you respond?
Well, this is almost like saying I have not been charged for murder, but for attempted murder. Let me put it in a very simple way. The FCPA really amounts to corruption of American officials. It is really based on a conspiracy to act against the United States. Now they have named various persons and indicted various persons, and it is a fact, that Gautam Adani has not been indicted there. However, the entire transaction over which the indictment for corruption for actions against the United States involves the entire conspiracy, which includes this also. However, let's make it very clear, because there has been a misreporting on this. Under the FCPA, Gautam Adani has not been indicted. Now, on the securities fraud, it appears to be a very strong case of security fraud based on much material which has been produced, including various emails, electronic transmission of various messages, indicating very clearly that there's reason to believe, or there's at least a prima facie case, to show that there was a move to corrupt Indian officials and a move for a large amount of money being spent in corruption in India in order to get certain contracts on the security of which various monies could be raised in the United States. And securities fraud itself is quite a serious offense. I agree that FCPA case is extremely serious, probably carries a greater punishment than a securities fraud case. But a securities fraud case is in itself a terrible indictment on an Indian businessman.
And am I correct in saying, from what you said, that the securities fraud involves allegedly bribes paid to Indian officials? That's where the question then arises, why is the Indian government, or particularly the Solar Energy Power Corporation of India, not ordering an inquiry based on what those charges are? Am I correct? It's one thing to say that, it's not under FCPA, it's under securities fraud, but under securities fraud, it involves bribing of Indian officials, which surely should be investigated in this country as well.
Certainly, yes. I mean, I don't think there's any doubt, and I'm sure the government will take action to investigate this. I'm sure that the government will ensure that there's an inquiry here, because I must say one thing. Before any such indictment in the United States, it's not as simple as in India, you file an FIR is registered, and a case is registered, thereafter you face trial, etc. Indictment happens after there has to be a fairly strong degree of evidence to justify an indictment. The very fact that there has been an indictment under the securities fraud statutes itself shows that there is strong evidence on which the United States government is proceeding in those cases.
Okay.
And that evidence definitely includes the fact and is predicated on a fact of corruption of Indian officials. I do believe that there's definitely enough for an inquiry to be lodged in India, and I'm very sure that the government will do so.
Because Bishwajit Bhattacharya, two questions are arising. One is about the timing. Mahesh Jethmalani, among others, has questioned the timing of it before a parliament session, and then suggested, therefore, that this could be a hit job in some way. Do you also believe that there is sufficient evidence in the United States collected, particularly when it comes to allegedly bribing Indian officials, for an inquiry to be ordered in this country as well?
You see, the United States has already, acted And as far as timing is concerned, timing can always be questioned, but that in itself does not dilute the gravity of the allegations leveled. It is still at the allegations level. But more important than that, the allegations in respect of securities seem to be pretty serious. This should warrant investigation, not only in the interest of the security and investigating agencies, but also in the interest of those persons against whom allegations and charges have been leveled. Overridingly, the SEBI and the judicial system, under these trying circumstances, will be coming under close scrutiny of public and the media. I have read the press statement given by the learned former distinguished Attorney General for India. I personally feel whatever statement he has made is factual, but then again, those facts are not good enough as yet. The matter is pretty serious, warranting investigation.
So
more and more facts must be unraveled.
The question therefore comes, Aryama Sundaram, who is to do this inquiry? Given that it seems prima facie, according to you, a case where securities fraud directly names Gautam Adani, not the FCPA, should it be under the Prevention of Corruption Act, bribing officials allegedly? Should it be SEBI that conducts the inquiry? Who drives this inquiry, if at all there is to be one now in India, which, as you say, must be done?
Well, I do not think the question of SEBI coming into the picture arises at all, for the simple reason that the securities we're talking about are securities in the United States. It is certainly a case, if it is a question of corruption, then it's definitely under the Prevention of Corruption Act. And considering the magnitude of what is being alleged, nothing has been proved as yet, but what is being alleged and what the indictment is of large-scale corruption, I do believe that the government may even consider such an inquiry being entrusted either to a commission headed by a retired Supreme Court judge, or directly ask the investigative agency, whether it is the Central Bureau of Investigation, or to investigate.
But the fact is, Mr. Sundaram, neither has the Solar Energy Power Corporation of India come out with a clear statement on this. The government also has been relatively silent, saying law will take its own course is the standard response that we are getting from government at the moment. You seem to be suggesting there needs to be something more concrete than that to tell us exactly how the government views what has been done in the United States. It can't be wished away. Am I correct?
It cannot be wished away that in a foreign country, which is another democratic country, there has actually been an indictment. And that is not a simple thing. And when there's been an indictment, and the indictment directly pertains to corruption of Indian officials, government officials, I think any government would definitely want to look into it for two reasons. One, to see whether there is any corruption at all, because it should be the aim, and it has certainly been the stated aim of the present central government, to root out corruption. Definitely it would be in the aim to find out whether there's been corruption, or equally so, to have an investigation so that there is a satisfaction and India can proudly turn around and say, I'm sorry, we have investigated it. There is no corruption. Our officials were not corrupt. We should at least clean our name there. But whatever it is, I think it warrants a very serious investigation or an inquiry in India.
Okay, Mr. Vishwajit Bhattacharya, politically, of course, the Congress has taken the lead in saying Adani should be arrested. Now, you can't be arrested based on an indictment in the United States yet. You'll have to have your own investigation in this country before you can go ahead with any process, any punitive process. Am I correct? To that extent, the Congress also needs to recognize that you've got to do this step by step.
Rajdeep, I agree with you. I do not believe in arrest jurisprudence at the drop of a hat. Of course, this is not at the drop of a hat. And may I just submit that today, that is on 27th of November, Adani Renewable, they have in fact written a letter to the Bombay Stock Exchange arising out of Regulation 30 of Securities and Exchange Board of India listing regulations. So when Adani itself is reporting the matter under Section 30 of SEBI regulations, 2015, so I don't see how the SEBI's jurisdiction cannot be acquired.
Particularly because presumably they did not inform SEBI earlier about the nature of the indictment in the United States. They kept SEBI in the dark allegedly.
Therefore, SEBI definitely will have some role to play here. I mean, what role they play here, it is premature at this stage.
Right.
To, come to a conclusion decisively. The point I am making, Rajdeep, is that India's investigation agencies and India's judicial system in this matter, ultimately, judicial system not yet, but ultimately they will come under very close scrutiny because in some form or the other, things have been surfacing.
Okay, so I want to therefore get a quick
conclusion.
Okay, I want to get a final word there from you, Aryama Sundaram. You're also concurring in that sense that it cannot be simply wished away by saying law will take its own course without specifically telling us what either the Solar Power Corporation or the government of India decides to do. Am I correct?
How do you wish away a charge of corruption of Indian government officials? How do you wish away something which is so internationally seen? Internationally, this has been seen everywhere, in every country, that there has been high-level corruption in India. I would be surprised if the government said, we wish it away.
Okay.
I would say the government at the very least would want an inquiry to show that all these allegations are false, if not anything else.
Okay. Very clear views coming in from our two legal eagles, Aryama Sundaram, Bishwajit Bhattacharya. Appreciate you joining me here on What Next in the Adani case. Thank you very much for joining me on the show tonight.